Well, what's taking place below us here in Canterbury is part of the clashing between the Pacific and Australian tectonic plates. The Alpine fault is a kind of no man's land or boundary in a way between them, but this may also be the work of another fault line, a new one, described by geologists here in Canterbury for years now, but not officially acknowledged to a great extent. Excuse me for one sec. I think I swallowed some of the dust being generated behind us. Dr. Mark Quigley is a geologist and a lecturer in active tectonics at the University of Canterbury. Today I spoke to him about the earthquake. We went on a tour of 3 significant sites.
Mark, what has happened here?
Well, we're actually right close to the epicenter here. The fault runs directly right through this area. We're sitting on one of the most dramatic expressions of the vertical offset along the fault. And we're actually got our legs in a tension crack which has developed as a consequence of the earthquake. So we're pretty much at ground zero, if you want to put it that way.
Here at ground zero, it's as if the road's been attacked with a giant axe, or someone kept unzipping it, flesh wounds in the asphalt. The police are enforcing roadblocks because in parts, well, the roads just aren't roads anymore. GPS is being used to determine how far the earth and asphalt have moved. And you should see the field next door.
Mark, this is unbelievable, isn't it? Because it's here that we see incredibly vividly the sort of tearing. The land is just being torn apart.
Yeah, I mean, we're again standing in this fault zone, and what you can see is the main fault scarp sort of running along the edge there, and you can just trace that going off into the trees there in the distance. But I guess what you were just standing in there is also really quite interesting. It's all these big fissures which have opened up in the fault zone, and the reason that they are oriented the way they are is because, like you say, the ground is basically being torn apart as that side of the fault there has moved that way, and this side of the fault has moved in this direction.
And what may be a new fault line runs on and on, right into Christchurch.
We think the fault is on the order of 23 kilometres long at this stage. We're sort of refining our estimates as we go. I think there's a couple really important points. Number one, a major earthquake is not a dot on a map as it's shown in the epicenter. It's not even just a single line on the map. It's a zone of deformation. And in places this is a very discrete, small zone. Other places it's a big diffuse zone that might be on the order of a kilometre wide even. So, but it's all that energy that gets created during that earthquake that we feel further afield, like in Christchurch. So,
even at the earthquake expert's own home.
Yeah. So Candice and I were in bed, and then the bed just started rattling, and she was awake before I was, and sort of, what's going on? And I said, oh, it's an earthquake. It's a big earthquake, you know. And we came out on the front lawn. We grabbed the torch, and we're looking, and we were seeing these sand volcanoes bubbling out of the ground, water filling up all through the whole front yard. You know, the house is rattling, and yeah, it was quite the experience.
Yes, Mark's own Christchurch Street was near the end of the chain that began back out at the epicentre. But here the earthquake didn't rip the Earth's surface, it flooded it with sand instead.
Yeah, it's basically river sand that's come out of the ground.
You've spent your entire adult life studying this stuff, haven't you?
Yeah, a good portion of it. Yeah, not this particularly, but you know, the whole process, earthquake processes in general.
And so what were the odds of finding this in your front yard?
Well, if you look at the liquefaction maps of Christchurch, probably higher than we might have imagined. But,
so this city is kind of built on this. Actually, if you, as an expert, this is really no surprise to you at all.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a really contentious issue in Christchurch, full stop. I mean, there have been new suburbs built on areas that are prone to liquefaction. Geologists have been telling the public this, but the suburbs go ahead, and I won't name them, but they are there. Those sort of suburbs are where you're finding brand new houses that are sinking into the ground because of this.
These are big and important issues. Have some parts of Christchurch been built on sand, unable to support them in an earthquake? Telling amounts of river sand are being seen in some areas of the city. So perhaps the geologists were right, who've been warning of distinct Canterbury fault lines for years now, and now not only find themselves seemingly proven correct, they're able to walk through the evidence of it.
The presence of these faults has been mentioned, you know, time and time again by the work of Jarg Pettinga and others at the University of Canterbury, suggesting that these faults are present beneath the Canterbury Plains. And I mean, this is evidence that they are. But if you come out here, you know, a few days before the earthquake, you would have seen nothing at all. So
So this is new. This
is all new. This block has come up, that block has gone down relative to this one. Things been torn apart, these tension cracks have opened up. These little swales we see are a result of the ground being compressed. It's just, it's amazing. Amazing stuff, and it's gonna be gone soon. So it's good that we're seeing it now while it's here, while it's fresh. You know.
Thanks, Mark.
My pleasure.